Hello, everybody. For those of you who just logged on, this is Tom Randall from GoldenCare. I want to welcome you to the webinar today, and we'll get started here in about 4 minutes or so.
The conference is now in silent mode.
All right, we had a little bit of background noise there, so I did put us in presentation mode. So I can hear you when you yell at me, but I promise I'll open up at the end for questions. And again, for those of you who just logged on, we got a lot of people popping on here at the last minute. We've got about 4 minutes to go time.
Hello?
Hello again. For those of you who just logged on, this is Tom Randall from GoldenCare.
Hey, Tom.
I want to welcome. Hi, Demerri. How are you? Everybody can hear us. I'm glad you dialed into the right one because we're in presentation mode, so we can't hear from the masses out there, but they're logging on in droves, which is a good sign.
Nice.
And for those of you who just logged on, besides Demerri, I want to let you know that we are going to start here in about 2 minutes or so. And real quick, Demerri and Aaron, did you want to switch and go back to having Demerri go first, or does it matter? Totally flex on my side.
Yeah, if Demerri's okay with going first, that's absolutely fine.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. We'll switch back to that. You got her made. Okay, and you guys have your presentations up, right? Because I should be able to switch, make you presenter, and if you're using my screen, we didn't have time to practice this, so unfortunately it should work. It usually is pretty smooth, so we'll go ahead and get rolling. And I'll switch it over to Demerri first after I do the little intro.
Okay, wait. I guess I'm going to stop. I guess I don't understand what you mean by having my presentation up first.
Do you have your presentation on your computer open? Because if I switch roles, they may be able to see your screen. And or I have a backup, I have it on my computer as well, your presentation.
You do? Okay. Can we go ahead and just use that then?
Yep. It may be you telling me to switch slides, and we'll see when I switch it over. So you don't have yours open.
Hold on a second.
Sorry. Or Lynn's in there saying, I told you, Tom, how this works, but I haven't done one where I switch it over. I know it's pretty smooth one way or the other, but I don't know if it goes to your screen or ours. So, hello, everybody. For those of you who just logged on, this is Tom Randall from GoldenCare, and I want to welcome you to the webinar today, and it's really our pleasure, and we're going to do some screen switching and all that fun stuff, so it should be a good morning here on this webinar. And just, we're coming into Long-Term Care Awareness Month, and it's pretty exciting to have a partner as great as Mutual of Omaha. We're really excited. We've worked with them for a long time, and we're really excited about the support that they offer and their commitment to the long-term care industry. So that being said, I'll tell you what, we couldn't do better than having a webinar that we have today. We have Demerri Bond on, who's the Long-Term Care Underwriting Manager from Mutual of Omaha, and we have Aaron Smallwood, who's the Underwriting Support Supervisor from Mutual, who are both going to be doing some different things. Demerri's going to talk about some of the different underwriting changes and underwriting in general, and Aaron's going to talk about new business and really how we can collect requirements post-issue and the amendment process, et cetera. So we got a lot of good stuff this morning. And we also have on the phone Mike Anderson, my cohort from American Independent Marketing, and Herman Strouk from our office here in New Business at GoldenCare. So we've got a lot of good minds. If you guys want to jump in at any time, absolutely feel free to do so. Mike and Herman especially, as we start out here, do you have anything you want to add to start? Nope.
It's Mike, from my perspective, glad to be out here this morning. Really glad to have folks as talented and committed as Aaron and Demerri are to helping agents do things the right way and be successful doing things the right way. It puts great people at the front of the process with underwriting with Demerri and her team, and then Aaron and the case managers working behind the scenes after the business is in the door to help agents get things moved through. So glad to be here and really glad that they have made their time available here as we kick off LTC Awareness Month.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. And again, I'm going to turn it over here any second. Hang on till the end of the webinar. We're going to talk about our great new holiday sales promotion. It's literally the most generous offer we've done here at GoldenCare and AIM to really help push into long-term care awareness and to finish the year strong. So we'll talk about that after the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change presenters, and we're going to hopefully not have any major deals. Demerri, I'm going to click you. If you want to make Demerri a panelist, yes. Press keyboard and mouse control, yes. And I'm going to go like this. Push escape. Hold on, everybody. Bear with me. Bear with me. I got to have some glitch or else it's too easy. All right. So first of all, let's find out if you can see what we're seeing here. Demerri, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, and what do you see now, or did you see in your presentation?
I do, yes.
Okay, good. And see if you can click through the mouse. If you have control of that, I tried to give you a mouse control.
All right, hold on. Let's see. Yep.
Good. Okay, go ahead. Turn it over.
Okay.
Everybody, this is Demerri Bond, the long-term care underwriting manager for Mutual. Sorry about the glitchiness there. And I'll turn it over. Thanks.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Mike, Herman, and everybody for inviting us. Yes, it is National LTC Awareness Month, and anytime that I get to talk about underwriting, I'm always excited. So I do want to say a few things for Mutual of Omaha. I want to focus this more on what we see as far as applications coming through the door, and some things that agents can, just think about when you meet with somebody or you're doing emails forth and back. Some questions that you can ask to make sure that when the app comes in the door, there's not a lot of questions from the underwriters when we do review the first app that comes in. So I want to go over those because I kind of call them kind of pitfalls, because if we dealt with them up front, we wouldn't have an issue with them when that app comes in the door. But I am pleased to say, because I know a lot of people from AIM and GoldenCare have asked Mutual of Omaha many times, so when are you guys going to have marijuana guidelines? And we have them now, and we will be publishing them in our next underwriting guideline release, probably be December or January. But I know that was a win for probably anybody, and it's not, marijuana use is not confined to those states that are legalized, but it's for any state. So more to come with that. I know we did send out a field reminder on that. So we do expect to see more business come in the door because of that. They can't use more than 3 times a week, and it cannot be for medicinal purposes. But I'm very happy with that. Another thing I'd like to share is our decline rate is going down. The amount of preferred people that we issue is going up. So things are going very well in the underwriting world with Mutual of Omaha. And without you, we aren't successful. So thanks for joining. The first thing that I want to talk about, and what I get to do with Aaron's team, is I get to review applications that come in the door, and when his case managers have questions about underwriting and information on the application, I'm a resource for them. And so with the help of Aaron's team, we've kind of identified some areas where maybe if we did a little bit of legwork up front, we wouldn't have an issue with the case when it comes in the door. The first one is agent licensing and training. It's really important because with Mutual of Omaha, if there's an issue where, let's say, the LTC training isn't completed and up to date and an application comes in the door, unfortunately we can't process that. It's not a valid application. And Mutual of Omaha requires, and this is something that we ran through our legal department, our compliance people, we do require a new application once the agent's compliant with their training. So it's kind of like going back out to that person. So it's kind of a buzzkill for the client where, I filled this paperwork out already. So just be very, very wary of your LTC training. I know both of your back offices do a really good job as far as licensing and making sure everybody's up to speed. So we don't see that as much of an issue with AIM GoldenCare, but it does happen from time to time. Another thing is if somebody answers yes to a walk-away question on our application. So we do have that section where it outlines things that a client can, if they answer yes, that you shouldn't submit the application. We still see applications that come through the door, and they do answer yes. The biggest one is collecting disability. A lot of times, we do take people that are on disability if they're on VA disability and not for a mental or nervous disorder, but otherwise we typically don't. If you have questions about that person, please call us before submitting the application or emailing me directly, and we can help solve the problem with that. But pay attention to those yes to walk-away questions on our application. Another thing is suitability. So we have the personal worksheet, and we ask people about their savings, their income, and whether they can afford the coverage that they're applying for. And sometimes when somebody doesn't want the company to know what their income or assets are, then they'll sign the personal worksheet and say, I don't want to give this information to you, which is fine. That's their right. But unfortunately, when that happens, then we have to send out another suitability form to that person asking them, are you very certain about this? And if they don't disclose the information on the personal worksheet up front, again, it's just one of those things that we have to follow up on the back end, and we can't approve a case until we have that back and completed by the client saying, yes, they still want to continue the process. So just being aware that that could delay things in underwriting, and I think we all know if something's delayed in underwriting, sometimes people lose interest in the product. Family history of dementia, that was something that we brought up last year in our underwriting guidelines. That was in August of last year. And at that time, we had indicated that anybody that has a biological parent or biological sibling with a family history with dementia or Alzheimer's disease, the questions on the application, the best rate they would get was select. We also had indicated in August of last year that if it was a two-family history, so a biological parent, biological sibling, then that person's uninsurable. The reason why we made that change is because we looked at our own claims history and family history of dementia or Alzheimer's, and there was certain connections there. And there were also connections as far as our reinsurer was concerned and consulting with our medical directors. There's a very strong incidence of somebody developing dementia if they have a two-parent or two-sibling or parent and a sibling history. So that's why we made those changes. And then in May of this year, we also limited the benefits that they can apply for. So sometimes we'll see that they have a family history of dementia on the application, they admitted to it, but then they're applying for $7,000 and in a monthly benefit, and the most they could get is $5,000. So just being cognizant of that. And I can't stress enough that the person has to be very sure of an actual diagnosis. So if you have a person who's applying and you come across that question, make sure that they think about that very carefully when they answer the question yes or no. Was there actual diagnosis, or do they just think their mom had dementia? So there's a difference there. Only have them answer that yes if there was a true diagnosis. Build, a lot of times we see people, we have an updated build chart, and we've had it since August of last year. Some people will still have our old guidelines, and it was a little more favorable than the ones that we have from August. I think that they're still pretty competitive in the LTC field, LTC hybrids even. It's not very stringent, but it just was a little bit more strict than we had before. But just paying attention to the build in which you quote somebody, because if somebody has an expectation of preferred and they're 5'2" and weigh 170 pounds, they're not going to get preferred, and so sometimes that could kill the sale. So we do have the build chart available to you and our underwriting guidelines, and certainly we can get those to anybody that doesn't have the updated guide. Right now, the one that we have is from March of last year. Anybody that has upcoming tests, labs, or procedures, sometimes that slows the underwriting process down, and we'd hate to see that. So, if somebody, you meet with somebody and they say, yeah, I have to follow up with a mammogram, and they haven't had it done yet, then it slows the process down. So anytime they identify to you that they have an upcoming test or a lab that they have to do, or even ask them, when you meet with them, when was your last doctor's appointment? If they say, oh, well, it was September, did your doctor ask you to come back for any follow-up lab work or follow-up tests, or did they refer you to anybody? I actually this morning looked at an application where somebody is referred to a kidney specialist by their physician, and we reached out to the agent, and they have an elevated serum creatinine. So unfortunately, the creatinine right now is uninsurable, and they're going to see a kidney doctor, but at this point it's kind of dead in the water, unfortunately, because there was a referral and their creatinine was elevated. So anytime you come across those, reach out to the underwriting team, and we'll help you with those questions and where we should go from there. Sleep apnea is another one. The questions on our application, and a lot of times people answer, yes, I have sleep apnea, or I've been treated for it, and then we'll say, do you use like CPAP or BiPAP or something like that, and then they say no. So then that's kind of asking around the questions of, okay, do you have sleep apnea, or did you consult for it and you don't? Or do you have sleep apnea and you have treatment but you're not compliant with it? So when you run across that question on the application, then please query just a little bit further, if there was treatment needed, and if there wasn't treatment needed, then why not? And then just provide us some type of explanation on the application so we don't have to go out to you and ask those questions again. And maybe, if somebody was referred for a sleep study and they never did it, then that's something that's going to be delayed in underwriting. So that question on the application sometimes causes a lot of work between us and for you and the client. Same with physical therapy. We've loosened our physical therapy guidelines, and so somebody, let's say they have a knee replacement and it was 3 months ago and they just finished physical therapy, we'll take a look at them. It depends on the condition. So anything like, a bursitis or something like that, tennis elbow, we don't care about those things as long as the physical therapy is complete. Conditions like back surgeries or spinal stenosis, if they've had physical therapy for that, we have a longer wait time just because it does take a little bit longer for the back to heal. And so along with physical therapy, we just feel like a 6-month wait is better for anything that has to do with the back. Certainly, if it's just back strain where they were raking leaves and they have back pain, then that's a different story. But generally for physical therapy for herniated disc, spinal stenosis, arthritis, if they've had physical therapy, it is a 6-month wait. Otherwise, it's a 3-month wait for most other conditions. Other things to remember with mutual...
Demerri?
Yeah.
Hi, sorry to interrupt. Somebody was asking if there's a way, or a few people have said, is there a way to make full screen for your presentation? Can you go into presentation mode or make that a little bit bigger? Sorry to interrupt.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Other things to remember is for Mutual of Omaha applicants, everybody from age 30 to 79, they need to have seen their physician within the last 2 years. We come across sometimes somebody hasn't been to the doctor since 2009, and we're asked to keep the case pending until the client goes to a doctor. But what we have found, and we actually tracked this, is when we keep a case open for somebody's physical exam, more times than not, they have some type of abnormal reading, abnormal finding that needs follow-up or a referral somewhere else, or even screening tests that haven't been done. So We don't accept those applications until they've met that requirement. So for age 30 to 64, it's just a physical assessment, so that means that they have to have been seen by a physician within the last 2 years. And sometimes, like even if they went into the doctor for a cold, that will satisfy the physical assessment if the doctor did their vital signs and did a brief review of systems, and that particular visit could qualify as a physical assessment. For those 65 and above, we do actually need a full physical exam. Those are a little bit more extensive, and most of the time, Welcome to Medicare does very extensive ones. We don't require a Welcome to Medicare physical exam, but those are kind of along the lines of what a full physical exam is about. Same with lab work. Anybody that's 65 years of age or older needs to have a comprehensive metabolic profile within the last 2 years. So basically, with Mutual of Omaha, just think, have you seen your doctor within the last 2 years? That's the key qualifier there. Some things as far as what we see with interviews, making sure that the client's prepared up front. If there's a language barrier, please identify that on the application so we're aware of that and we can be ready for that. Same with hearing issues. Just make sure that they're very, very clear that somebody from the company is going to call them for a phone interview or set up a face-to-face interview. And face-to-face interviews need to be conducted in that client's home. The reason for that is that's where claims are paid. A lot of times we'll get requests to do it in somebody's office or, in their vacation home. And unfortunately, we can't accommodate those. It needs to be done where claims would be paid, and most often that's going to be in their home. And then, when you meet with somebody and they fill out the application, a good reminder to make sure that you've gone over every question and, just kind of reiterate to somebody about their health is think of it as a head-to-toe assessment. So, they've completed the application and, just look it over and, you may query and say, so there's nothing going on neurological-wise, nothing with your eyes, ears, nose, throat, your neck, your back, your heart, your lungs. So go all the way down, your abdomen, so gynecological issues, prostate issues, your legs, your knees, your feet. Think of it from a head-to-toe assessment that like a doctor would do. Just start from the top down. Prior declines, we published last year in August that we don't take prior declines. We do, but only if you pre-qualify those cases with me in advance before sending the application in. And that's even if somebody's been declined or postponed by Mutual of Omaha. So all prior declines, please email me or call me, and my email address is Demerri, DEMERRI, .bond at mutualofomaha.com, or you can call me at 800-551-2059. One thing we implemented, this has been in force for a while. If somebody's had other coverage in force, so let's say they have a Genworth policy and they have $4,000 monthly benefit for Genworth, and they're coming into Mutual of Omaha and they're applying for $7,000 with us. The most Mutual will allow, and we are talking to our actuaries about this because that's where it's coming from, is our product area. But the actual that we will allow is $10,000 for all total policies in force. Just make sure that if somebody has other coverage in force and they're not replacing, that you're aware that with Mutual of Omaha, the most they can have is $10,000 in coverage. Morbidity versus mortality. For any of you that write life policies, you'll notice that obviously there's a lot of a difference between a life policy and what an underwriter would be worried about versus somebody that's in long-term care. The biggest areas we usually see are with diabetes, cardiac disease, musculoskeletal disorders, psychiatric disorders, strokes. And so, like somebody that has diabetes, if they have retinopathy, they can live for a long time. So as far as life is concerned, they're not going to be as concerned with that condition where somebody that has retinopathy and they start having blindness, they're going to need additional help with their ADLs. So just thinking whether the disease is something that's going to kill them versus is this going to cause a debility. That's what we are all about in long-term care underwriting. And if you have any questions as far as underwriting is concerned, we are always there for you. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Really, please reach out to us. We would rather you do that versus not be sure and submit an application that we might have to turn away a lot earlier than we should. And so I've given you our pre-screen database there, and we prefer that you email only because we want the underwriters to focus on what they're doing as underwriters. And it's fine to call, and we don't want them to be distracted, but it doesn't mean that you can't call us. We understand that you sometimes have urgent cases that you have to have a pre-qualification right away. I will say our email database, when you email us, we answer your emails up to 4 hours. So I think that's a pretty good quick turnaround time. Sometimes it's within an hour. If it's really, really urgent, you can certainly email me as well. Otherwise, like I said, if you can't wait, there's our 800 number, and you can call, and any underwriter's available to help you. We've got our guide, and we also have some questionnaires available for you to use for certain conditions, where you're not sure if you should even submit the application. But we're really there to help you. All of the underwriters, and even our Director of Underwriting, Alan Gregoire, if you reach out to him, like I said, we love talking about underwriting, and I think I've talked about it enough. So I guess if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah, thank you so much, Demerri. This is Tom again, you guys. I'm going to try to reel it in, and I'm not going to open up the phone lines because we have a big crowd, and I think we could lose control of the webinar. We want to make sure Aaron jumps on.
Okay.
So comments and questions till the end. I did have a couple typed in, if you don't mind, Demerri. One, I answered a few of them that I could, and then somebody asked if they had a 35-year-old who had a DNA analyzed, and it came back showing that they have the Alzheimer's gene. Mm-hmm. Would Mutual still look at that?
If it depends on the state. So states have certain laws. So for that particular case, we need to know, what state they live in, and I'd have to look that up. But it's possible, just because some states allow us to take action on that, and some states do not.
Okay, no problem. Somebody else asked a two-part question. If you could clarify a little bit about the difference between comprehensive physical and vitals, and then if the doctor could be some other type of doctor. I think she had a typo, radiologist. I think she's asking, can the doc be a radiologist if
Sure.
the other doc took vitals, et cetera? So.
Yep, absolutely.
And the difference between comprehensive and vitals? Vitals is just the blood work, right?
Yeah, vitals are part of the exam. So whenever you go to your doctor, even if you went there for a cold, they're going to have you step on the scale. They're going to take your blood pressure, your respirations, and that's what we mean by vitals, is your pulse, your blood pressure. That's just part of the physical assessment or physical exam.
Okay, perfect. Somebody asked if it was recorded. Yes, we are recording it. Hopefully that'll work out. And the rest of this I'm going to come back to. Somebody asked a question. I'll be able to type in the answer. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take the presenter, and I'm going to try to put it on mine. And bear with us just for a second here. So I'm going to see if this is my screen. And I'm going to go over to Aaron. If you're there, I'm going to go to your presentation if I can. Hopefully.
Yeah, Tom, would you mind driving?
Yep, that's great. I have the slideshow from the beginning, and hopefully people can see. Are you seeing Mutual Omaha LTC New Business?
Sure am.
Okay, perfect. This little question screen for a second. And go ahead now, and I can actually give you mouse and keyboard control. Should I try to do that?
Sure.
Okay, let me see if that works. Shared mouse and keyboard. Okay, go ahead and see if you can move it around. Everybody, as he's doing that, I want to welcome Aaron Smallwood again. He's the Underwriting Support Supervisor for Mutual of Omaha. And another part of a great team over there. Demerri, thank you again. And stick around. Hopefully we'll have some questions at the end if you can. And I'll turn it over to Aaron. Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, thank you, Tom. I want to thank everybody for expressing interest in learning more about our amendment process. It's a newer process that I'm really excited about. I'm going to jump ahead here. Oh, Tom, it's not working for me here.
Okay, hold on. There we go. Better.
There we go. Thank you.
Tell me when to click, and I'll do it for you.
Sure. I just want to give everybody an idea of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about our amendment process, give you a high-level overview of the entire process from solicitation to application or policy issue, get a little bit more in-depth about the amendment process, what we can amend for, what we can't amend for, and then some expected communication from your case manager, specifically within the post-issue arena, and then give you some key contacts if you want to move forward.
Yep.
All right. So before we jump into the amendment process, I just wanted to remind everyone about new businesses' time service commitments. So when the case manager receives an application, they're going to do an initial review on that application and identify any missing application requirements, any risk assessment requirements that we need to order for underwriting, and they're going to send out a welcome email. Now that's going to be done within 24 hours of receiving that application. The review of the underwriting requirements, once they've all been received, that application will be moved to the underwriting department, Demerri's team, within 24 hours of receiving that last requirement. Our email and phone call return policy is 4 hours so long as that email or phone call is received by 2:30 Central Time, and then by noon the next business day if it's received after 2:30 Central Time. So I just wanted to go over that really quickly before we jump into the amendment process. Next slide, please. Well, this is a really high-level overview of the entire application process from the solicitation all the way through step 8 there. I don't know, Tom, is that on my screen or yours, that box? Either way, step 8 is the return of all of the policy delivery requirements, or post-issue requirements. And those requirements can be, and we'll go over this in a future slide, policy delivery acknowledgement forms, any outstanding premium, and then any applicable amendments. So an amendment can actually be created in any one of these steps after the applicant has signed the application. Next slide, please. So I wanted to go over some of the things that we can amend for, but before we do that, I'd like to talk about some of the reasons that we created this amendment process. The intent behind the amendment process was to minimize the back and forth between underwriting and the applicants, through you, going back and forth to the applicant, can tire them, put that case at jeopardy. We wanted to minimize that as much as possible. Our process prior to adopting a more robust amendment process was to have you go back out to the client and get initials and a date for everything that we needed to change on the application. Sometimes you'd have to go out 2 or 3 times because of changing requirements. We wanted to minimize that, and I think that this process has been fairly successful. We also wanted to shorten the time that an app is in the underwriting process. So if we can amend for something on the back end versus waiting around for an initial and a date on a corrected application page, we would like to do that. Moving cases through the underwriting process as efficiently and quickly as possible is to everyone's benefit. So some of the things that we can apply, or we can use amendments for, are other than applied. So if a case is underwritten and the underwriter comes out with an offer that's sent via email, any change to that application, instead of going out and getting those corrected application pages once again, we can amend for on the back end, and you can get your applicant to sign off on those changes when you deliver the policy. They're not only signing that they are accepting those changes, but they're signing acceptance of that policy at the same time. So any missing application requirements, with the exception of the next slide, I'm going to go through a couple that we just can't amend for. We can go ahead and amend for MAR, or missing application requirements. And we can take those corrections verbally, via email. Just get a hold of your case manager, tell them what changes you would like to make, and we can make those changes, create a applicable amendment. That'll be attached to the policy issue kit, and you'll get that upon delivery. I'm not going to belabor each one of these points, but I did want to talk about the fact that an amendment is one of two ways. We talked about the other way of changing a policy after it's been signed by the applicant, and that's through a initialed and dated corrected application page. That's tedious, so we created the amendment process to fulfill our legal obligation to change that signed contract or application as well. Next slide, please. Obviously, we can't amend for everything. This is a rundown of the questions and portions of the application that we just cannot amend for from a compliance standpoint, a legal standpoint. So Section C, Question 4, Section I, Question 3, and Section J, Question 3. All three of those will need dated initials for any changes. A replacement notice, unfortunately, we can't amend for that. We will need an applicant's signature on the replacement notice, as well as the personal worksheet. And I know that there's a little bit of contention around the personal worksheet from time to time, and I'll let Demerri talk to this a little bit more, but if the applicant refuses to fill out the personal worksheet when you're soliciting the application, we have a process of getting that information after solicitation. We cannot amend for that. We will need a personal worksheet filled out either at time of solicitation or through our other process to get that information during the pending process. Also, temporary insurance agreements or conditional receipts, we cannot amend for either one of those. Those need to be filled out and premium needs to be collected at time of solicitation for those to be valid. And of course, any corrections to signatures or dates will need to be actually corrected. We can't amend for those. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. Next slide. All right, some of the communication that you could expect to see from your case managers throughout the post-issue process. And I'm going to start slightly before post-issue, and that's the options email. Now, the underwriter is going to review the case, and if we can't issue as applied, the underwriter is going to give the case manager a couple of different options. We're going to communicate with you so that you can communicate with your client and find out how they would like us to issue the policy. Once again, other than those items that we cannot amend for, any of those changes can either be sent via, if you really wanted to use fax, you could, but email or phone call to your case manager. We can make those changes, create an amendment, and get the policy out the door faster. It's obviously going to save time. It reduces rework. What we saw in the past was we would issue a case, there would be changes to that case, and we would have to reissue that case. That slows everything down. Those post-issue requirements that were due on the first case were still due on the second case. There was multiple hands in the pot doing a lot of rework. And obviously, cases issue faster. If we can get the information via telephone or email, that's going to save us a lot of time, save you a lot of time. You're also going to hear from your case manager at time of issue. They're going to let you know what the case was issued at what rate class. Any changes that you had made to the policy are going to be in that issue email. We are not going to list actual premium amount. You could call in and get that information, but the actual amount will not be on that issue email. Post-issue requirements will be on the issue email. So any post-issue requirements, which could include, as applicable, policy delivery acknowledgement forms. Currently, those states that we require policy delivery acknowledgement forms are West Virginia, Louisiana, South Dakota, Nebraska, and Illinois. Now that could change in the future, but currently those are the 5 states that we do require a PDA. Outstanding premium is another area of post-issue requirements that could be applicable. And then obviously we're talking about amendments, so a signed amendment returned to keep that policy in force. So if any one of these 3, as applicable, are not returned within 60 days of issue, so the date of issue, the case will be withdrawn. So we definitely need all of these post-issue requirements returned. There are multiple avenues to do that. You could send those in via fax. You could send those in through GoldenCare. You could send those directly to your case manager through secured email. Any applicable post-issue requirements will need to be returned 60 days from the date of issue. So the date that you get the date that the issue email is generated and sent, that's generally the date of issue. You have 60 days from that date to return all of those outstanding requirements. Next slide, please. So key contacts. Obviously, you have your case manager. Your case manager is here to help move your case through the underwriting process and post-issue process fast and efficiently. Please feel free to reach out to them. We're here to help. We have a new business hotline. If you can't get a hold of your case manager directly, please call that 800 number. You will get a case manager. It may not be your case manager, but they will all have access to your case and be able to answer any questions you might have on your case. Sales support through Mutual of Omaha, and then our customer service line. Any additional contact information could be found on the back page of your underwriting guide as well. So I think that's it, and we can open it up for questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Aaron. I appreciate that. This is Tom Randall again. And I'm going to open up the questions. I had to steer there, so I wasn't able to answer that many of them. So if you don't mind, I'm going to first, before I open up the phone lines, try to go through some of the ones that were typed in here. Bear with me if your screen's getting blocked, etc. We actually have quite a few of them. And let's see. We have the DNA one we already talked about. And phone number is talked about. Will recorded talked about. And let's see. Sorry about that. Regarding underwriting, when does MU issue a policy without medical records? That's probably just in the underwriting guide. It relates to approaching an applicant at select when with the medical records the applicant might have been issued at preferred. Can you go ahead and address that a little bit, Aaron or Demerri, just talking a little bit about that?
Okay. Yeah, in August of last year, we implemented a program where there are some conditions that and ages that we aren't going to automatically get medical records on. And it just depends on the application, the person's age, whether there's any concerns on an MIB check or a pharmacy check. So those are some of the parameters that we look at is, if there's any condition that, like if they are a diabetic or something like that, that's somebody we would not issue without getting medical records. But, if they're otherwise healthy, they've been to a physician within the last 2 years, and they're a certain age, usually somebody that's probably less than 60, we may or may not get medical records. We see about, and keep in mind we were in 100% APS environment until last August. I believe right now the count of cases that we issue without medical records is hovering around 16 to 18%.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. Here's one you're going to love because I know this comes up. First of all, a great compliment from one of the attendees saying thank you both for an outstanding presentation. And it seems to me that more often than not, the health release form contained in the application packet is often not sufficient to secure the release of medical records because a health provider is not comfortable with the form contained in the packet or because not comfortable with electronic signatures. Could you go over what MU is doing, if they're doing anything, towards working with providers and agents to lessen the instances of that happening where multiple release forms are needed? Can one of you touch on that a little bit?
Sure, I'll go ahead and take that. We work hand in hand with our medical information retrieval team, which is actually housed here within Mutual of Omaha. They're Mutual of Omaha employees. They happen to use a vendor system called Release Point. That team, we're working hand in hand with them to reduce the number of special authorizations that we need. Nobody likes going back out to the applicant and asking them to sign another release form. We have identified certain facilities, and I'll use Kaiser Permanente as an example. Each one of their facilities seems to need a special authorization specific for that facility. We're keeping a database of those, so as we come across those and we identify those special authorization requirements for those facilities, that's being shared with the field as well. If we could preemptively get those so you don't have to go back out to your client, that's one way that we do that. We also have the ability to go directly to the client via email, copying Eamon GoldenCare on the communication to the client, so they can actually use a DocuSign-like system to electronically sign that authorization, so that you don't need to make a special trip out to get a special authorization.
And just, I'm going to piggyback what Aaron said. The only way we can do that is if the client puts their email address on our application.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, guys. I have another one with the case manager. It says the case manager number, the 800-275-5528, new line, also the line you'd call if you wanted to talk to an underwriter for an emergency when you didn't have time to email it, say you were knee-deep in an e-app, for example. Would that be that number, or would it be the 800-551-2059 underwriting number?
Yeah, that's the underwriting number. That's the number they need to call versus the case management.
Okay, that number again is 800-551-2059 that Demerri had given earlier. And somebody else asked, how can we get LTC training in order to quote? That definitely is something GoldenCare can have. We have training on our site, and we have webinars on the training, so we'll get back to you on that one, Diana. And there are questionnaires for diabetes, arthritis, and COPD. They can be found both on SPA, or you can get them through GoldenCare and AIM. Somebody asked about that. And a good friend of mine asked about the number of apps, or do you go and switch them to preferred? And I don't know the exact percentages, so I apologize, but I know you guys have had a little upflow lately of people who you will move over. We tell everybody send in apps at select, and the underwriters, if it looks like they warrant, it'll move them to preferred.
Yep,
do you
absolutely.
interview by chance, no percentages or anything like that? I know it's been an uptick lately.
Yeah, so we were at a 15% preferred rate, and we've gone up to 18%, and that might not seem that much, but it takes some time to move things along. Also, that's coaching and training with the underwriters. I have 2 chief underwriters on my staff that do quality audits on underwriters every month, and anytime there's an opportunity where they may not have known you could have gone preferred, we're doing those kind of teaching opportunities. So we hope to see even more preferred in the future, and especially going into the end of the year in 2019.
Perfect. Thank you. And somebody else asked a question that I think you maybe covered a little bit, but if you don't mind just reiterating to help everybody else, there's probably others. They said, I'd like to know the best way to submit an appeal. Should we use the case manager we're working with or go directly to Demerri?
Go directly to the underwriter that handled the case. And when it comes to appeals, I want to say that when a doctor sends a to whom it may concern letter to us, it doesn't have that much merit. When somebody can send us objective medical information that would alter our decision, and I'll give you an example. So let's say we got medical records that said somebody has a history of cardiomyopathy, and their last echocardiogram that they had was probably from 2015, and it showed an ejection fraction of 39%, and we don't see in cardiology records that they're even following up with any repeat studies, and so we may have declined that person. I've seen cases where an agent will send me an EKG or send the underwriter an EKG, and an EKG doesn't do anything to alleviate somebody's concerns about somebody that has a structural problem with their heart. EKG is something that's electrical in nature, so reaching out to the underwriter and asking them what would satisfy your concerns, and what you should see if we postpone somebody or decline somebody, the underwriter should be reaching out to you in the letter we sent about the notification, the email notification about the parameters in which they can apply. And if they don't, again, reach out to the underwriter. Don't reach out to the case manager, because all they're going to do is give you to the underwriter. But please start with, I'm a military person, so I believe in starting with the lowest possible level of review, and that would be that underwriter. After that, then we do have 2 chiefs. If there's something that you feel like you've just appealed it didn't go right, and you feel like you need additional eyes, you can always send those to me. But I would like to just have you start at the lowest possible level with objective medical information. So like with the cardiomyopathy example, we did get an updated echocardiogram versus an EKG, and their ejection fraction had actually improved to 51%. So that was somebody we were able to overturn. But that's the kind of information we're looking for.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for a great answer on that. And for all you, we're not done, folks, so don't leave yet, but I do want to just get a couple things done, and then I'm going to open it up, and I've done enough of these webinars that sometimes when we open up the phone lines, it gets a little chaotic. So before I do that, to have you answer some other questions, first of all, I can't speak enough about how much I appreciate Demerri and Aaron's time. and all they do behind the scenes. You guys have no idea. There's a reason Mutual of Omaha is the #1 company out there for long-term care, and it starts with the back office and the home office, what they do for us. So thank you so much again for doing a great presentation today and for all you do on a day in and day out basis. That being said, I'm going to open up for questions here in a couple seconds. Before I do, we have the best promotion I talked about and teased you a little bit at the beginning, and I want to let you know this is by far the most robust that we've done here at GoldenCare and AIM. $150 for every person you have get approved, writing the apps with app written dates from October 15th through December 31st. So some of you should take great advantage of that and end up having some really nice Amazon.com gift cards that you can use to get a lot of your Christmas shopping done, et cetera, or the holiday shopping. So that being said, I'm not going to get on my dog and pony show too much, but I do want to make sure you know that's there. Ask GoldenCare or AIM, your friends here, and we will help you with that. And, of course, I wouldn't be doing my job if any of you happen not to be appointed yet, then you're missing the boat because you need to do that. So our AIM and GoldenCare numbers are up on the screen there. And for those of you who do jump off before the Q&A, thank you very much for taking your time today to jump on and learn more about what Mutual can do for you and how they can help you. And with that said, Mike and Herman, if you want to jump in, please do. But otherwise, I'm going to open up the phone lines. So last chance to speak before the chaos begins. Anybody? All right.
The conference is now in talk mode.
All right, everybody out there who's got private conversations going on, remember, we're in talk mode now, so we can hear you. And I'm going to open it up. Demerri and Aaron were nice enough to stick around for a couple of minutes. Does anybody have any other questions that we didn't already answer? Anybody?
Can you hear Roger Dunham from Oklahoma?
Hi there.
Can you hear Roger Dunham from Oklahoma?
Yes, I can hear you, Roger. What's up?
I've been inactive for 2 years. How do I get updated on training?
Absolutely. You said Oklahoma?
Yes, sir.
Give us a call. You can call us at 800-672-7202, and they'll get you started and get you whatever you need. So anybody there will help you out.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? I think I heard somebody there. Go ahead. All right. Any other questions by any chance?
Yeah, can you hear me, Tom?
Yes, I can.
Hi, Tom. It's Cookie. I have a question. I have an app that I wanted to send in, but she started taking blood pressure medicine about 6 weeks ago, and I don't know. I figured by the time you get apps, it'll be 3 months, or should I actually wait 3 months to submit?
Very good question. So they took medication. They've been taking medication for about a month and a half. This is what we want them to do. Before you submit the application, make sure they go back to their doctor's office, and the doctor reads their blood pressure, and if it's favorable, then go ahead and send the application in.
Okay.
If they've not been back to the doctor, then don't send the application in until they've reached back and that medication's working.
Is there any concern when someone thinks, or an eye doctor thinks they may have blood pressure problem because they saw a blood clot in the eye?
Well, there's always the concern that there's some type of underlying thing that's going on that's causing that blood clot in the eye. So that kind of case would have to be pre-screened with us so we can figure out what's going on with them and whether they're insurable now or what they would need to have in order to be insurable in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cookie. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. I know it's hard, so I'll tell you what. Go ahead.
Yeah, Philip Shields here. Thanks, Tom. I have a question that is not specifically underwriting, but I wonder if you can address it. The current Mutual of Omaha product, I believe, has been out for many, many years. Is there any talk of a new product coming out? Or and my main concern is that if a rate increase occurs, and even those, if I understand how it works, all of those who are on this current product, even if they just bought it a month ago, will get that rate increase. Is that a misunderstanding, or?
Actually, I can probably address that a little bit. And again, Demerri or Aaron, jump in if you have information that I don't have. One of the best things out there And Philip, I know you're in the trenches and you're really an expert in long-term care, so this probably won't be a surprise to you. A great article that I use and I teach our brokers to use is a Brokers World article from March of 17. Glickman helped put it together, and it talks a little bit about how long-term care is too legit to quit, and it talks about they have so much more data, 70 times more claims data now than they did 15 years ago. So these policies now with gender rating, like this that we have here at oops, on hold, we got the music. But basically, it's just the policies are much more robust and solid. It's really hard to answer with music going. Somebody put it on.
We can hear you.
Music. Okay, I'm going to keep going. But basically, if you need that article, email me at tomr@goldencareusa.com, and I'll get you a copy of that article. And it's great. It just talks about the chance, literally less than 10% that policies will have significant rate increase. And if they do, it'll be probably in the 10% range. So it's not going to be.
What about the other question about a new product coming out anytime soon? It's been I hope not, because I like the pricing.
Hey,
we do too.
Amanda Blackburn, is this? Can you hear me, Tom? This is Amanda.
Yes,
I'm on the line.
Thanks, Amanda. Great.
Yep, I thought I'd just go ahead and address that. I appreciate that question, Philip, because we do get that from time to time. And I stay in contact with our actuaries here at Mutual of Omaha and ask those same questions. And we are currently very comfortable with the product that we are marketing. It's very profitable for the company. There is another great article where Mary Swanson, who is over the product line, had been interviewed and commented on some of those same points in Insurance Daily. I believe it was the May 30th article, if you're wanting to read a little bit more in depth. Our product has been out there longer than what a typical lifestyle product is, which is 3 to 5 years. But we also are comfortable with the benefit features that we're offering and how that's performing for Mutual. So at this time, we're not looking to change it right away, but every year we continue to take a look at the product and say, are there things that we should be doing differently next year? So we'll continue to do that, but those discussions have not begun on the development of a new product anytime in the near future. So we'll continue to keep AIM and GoldenCare updated on that so that you're one of the first to hear.
Yeah, thank you. A related question would be any talk or intention to get big time into the multi-life worksite market. We sure could use you guys.
Yep, I appreciate that comment too, and we're excited that we continue to look at opportunities to be in different marketplaces. I'm sure you're aware that we are a long-term care solutions company, and we want to make sure that we're offering the products that consumers want and need. Right now, we are piloting a worksite product with a couple of specific relationships that have the experience, spent the money investing, and the tools to be successful. And right now, we just don't feel comfortable opening it up until we have vetted that out and we've seen some success with it. And so you can stay tuned for future information on that. But as of today, that's not something we'll open up.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
The conference is now in silent mode.
All right, I couldn't take the music anymore, folks. I'm sorry. This is Tom Randolph. And I didn't dare do it during that question because I was afraid Amanda hadn't dialed in with the host mode, so I didn't want to cut Amanda off, of course. So sorry about the music. It was probably one of our competitor companies out there putting us on hold just to disrupt us. That's my tell you what, again, this is Tom Randall and my cohort partner in crime out there at American Independent Marketing, Mike Anderson, I'm sure is on the line. If you have any closing words, Mike or Herman, please jump in. I do, from my point, want to thank you all very much for taking your time. And again, I just can't stress enough, thank you, Amanda, and Steve, and of course, Demerri and Aaron here at Mutual for taking all the time that you guys do to help us be successful and help our agents in the field. So, Mike, any closing comments by any chance? All right, he might be on mute. But on behalf of ourselves, AIM and GoldenCare, I want to thank you again, Demerri and Aaron. Again, thanks a ton. Everybody else, thanks for your time. And because if I open it up again, we'll get that music. I'm going to go ahead and close her down. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to email us or call us at the numbers you see on your screen there. Okay? Anything else from anybody? Well, otherwise, we'll let her roll. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.